Kinetic Carl here at my super secret kinetic lab of wonders. My cat Sabia checking out what's going on. So the project's been going for over 24 hours, but the actual time in the tank is probably closer to about 6. The first time I put it in the tank, I thought I had a hydrogen production going on, but it seems overnight somewhere between the battery, this 12-volt battery right here, and my jumper cord, that something came disconnected, because that first morning I came out, the tank didn't even have all this floating at the top. It was just clear water. So I turned it off in the morning. When I got up before work, I turned this tank off, and then when I came home at lunchtime, since I work nearby, I checked out what went wrong, and I just needed to wiggle the 4 connections, and it fired right up while I was fired, that's the wrong word. It started to produce nitrogen or hydrogen while I was jiggling the connection. So it was this the positive connected to the sacrificial field was not getting a good connection. So I had negative good in the tank, but I didn't have the positive solid. And so overnight it gave out. Following morning, I turned the system off while I wasn't here, and then tested it at lunch when I came home, found the problem. So that was yesterday afternoon after work. I turned the tank back on, and then of course this morning it had produced all this, and I pulled it out in the morning. I had turned off the system and pulled the 2 pieces out, or 3 pieces. It's a reamer, a pipe cutter, and then an automotive jack, probably a Japanese car of some kind. And gonna go back in the tank now. So hang on a sec whilst oh, actually, there's a little bit of something I can show you. There's it's already been in the tank for about 8 hours, and this is some of this rust. Well, most of it was still here this morning. I'm going to get a little of the water in the tank, and you might find that it's actually it's just a fuzzy, rusty red foam that's on the metal right now, that where I scrub lightly, it's kind of swinging around and stuff, but you'll see it's all knocking off. And there is a little bit of surface rust from sitting out of the tank and not being prepped, because as soon as I get these parts out of the tank, when they're finally rust free, you immediately have to do something about it, or they'll just start flash rusting right away. So I just took them out of the tank, because flash rust is easy enough to remove. You just dip it back in the tank and kind of start over, but not necessarily that deep rust that what we're trying to do down here on the pipe threader. That's some good solid deep rust. And I think that jack might had a little bit of deep rust going on at this pivot, and then where the screw is, that's usually the other thing that freezes up, is you can't turn the screw because it's all rusted over. It's a long screw and nut sort of affair that lifts your car. So anyhow, enough of that detail. In the tank, and I have it turned on. I've already been in and out of the tank with it. I'm pretty sure there's no hydrogen being produced right now, so the only thing that could possibly happen is me swinging the material around and touching the 12-volt connection around the outside of the work. I have the negative attached to my work itself, the thing that I wish to derust. And the trick, I'm trying to lower it down gradual, so I keep that aluminum handle just out of the tank. And I think just the very, very nut end of the jack ends up sticking out of the juice. Let's get you down close. Can you see there? Yeah, there's a little daylight there. I'm gonna leave it there because in tying it, I'll probably lose a little something here. I think we're out of the soup. And the soup is basically salty electrolysis water. I guess salty, it's electrolyte. And it's created using boraxo and salt at a cup per 5 gallons of water. That's a cup boraxo and a cup salt. Really simple recipe. Churn it around in the tank. If you've never used the tank, you'll see the salt hanging out the bottom. You can keep churning, but the salt kind of just hangs out there, and when the system's working, it gets all into circulation, so to speak. So right now, theoretically, like last time I watched it and saw bubbles coming off, but it wasn't as furious as I was before. Oh yeah, this is much better. Last night the plume was coming up real slow. Now you can see there's actually a current flowing on top of the water that will remain there, but will be underneath the foam where you can't see it, because eventually this whole surface is just going to foam over with rust foam, and that you'll see in the morning. I'll snap another video when I turn the system off and haul the 3 pieces of equipment out of the tank and go off to work. If I leave them in the tank, the rust would be worse, I think, than if I pull them out. I've never left anything in the tank when it isn't running, because I assumed it's salt water. You don't want to hang out in there if electrolysis isn't happening, because then I think you have the opposite of electrolysis. If there's the presence of oxygen, which I have no idea if the water's rich in it or not. I'm not a chemist. I just know this trick works. I've used it for years to de-rust some pretty cool stuff in the steam world and in the kinetic world and the bike world. As long as it's steel, it can go in there. So that's just kind of the rule of thumb. If it's rusty and it's all steel, or mostly, or the bit you don't care about that's not steel can be easily replaced, then yeah. Kinetic Carl, signing out as a super secret kinetic lab of wonders, doing tanks a lot here.